Welcome back to another episode of OpsOwners. I am so excited to have John Glon with me today. John is a good friend of mine. He is a business coach, facilitator, and is the founder of My Operating Manual. It's a system that helps leaders run their businesses with more clarity and efficiency. He has a career that bridges industrial power systems and human-centered coaching. And so just really excited to have John bring a unique perspective on operational systems and how personal freedom can coexist. So, John, thanks for being here.
Cannon, thanks for having me on. For everyone else's edification, Cannon and I got to work together in my coaching capacity, and him on the coachee side, and got to see Cannon in action, and also as he's a sponge for information and learning. Always enjoyed it. So thanks for having me on here, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, kind words, John. John's awesome. John provides so much structure and clarity around how to operationalize a business, and like helping leadership teams just get structured and just kind of get out of their own way. John was very, very instrumental to helping our leadership team in that regard. So I appreciate that.
Awesome, thanks.
John, go through your background. I know that you're going the coaching route, so I would love to talk more about that. But how did you get to this place that you're at right now?
Yeah, try to make it quick and not make it the whole episode. I started in corporate America, top 5 corporations type of thing out of college, because I thought that's what I needed to do. The more I went and thought I wanted to be the CEO of that company, and realized the further up I went, the more I had to kind of sell my soul a little bit and travel more and be away from my family and all these things. And I ultimately decided that I didn't realize that I had this entrepreneurial spirit underneath me, even though my grandparents, and there's a lineage of folks and within my family that have stepped out to do entrepreneurship. And most of it is just, I'm just a terrible employee. That's what it was. Anyway, so about 12 years ago, I started my own company that was a branch off of what I was doing with a large corporation. We were doubling every year. Couldn't tell you why, other than just pure grit and determination, and having a ball, but yet realizing that, it's late nights, busy day. Our planning session meant, hey, let's go have a lunch. And that turns into 3 hours with beers and all these things. And realizing I can't sustain this, fell onto an operating system called EOS that I implemented in my company, and really, really helped me with clarity in myself, with my business, et cetera. That was like 8 years ago. And through the years have realized that, one, I was able to step away from the business because I was able to systemize some things and have the right people in place. But then over time, I stepped away too far from the business, and it really started weighing on me, because the stress was there that, wait, is my business actually growing? No, it's not. I mean, it's not my people's issue. It's more of, okay, we still have to have a pulse on it. So fast forward and realizing I have a passion for other things. I have a passion for helping people, helping leadership teams. And I always wanted to be a leadership coach or a business coach. Didn't quite know how to get there. And came across Bloom Growth operating system. And it really, really, really piqued my interest, because yes, it's the business side of things, but the main focus is on people and transformational thinking and leadership. And that really, really just spoke to me. And so that's what I've been transitioning to on the pro bono side, and also now with paying clients. And my cup if run over with the impact I get to make on a daily basis without touching all the people in the business, because I get to help the leadership team show up as better humans to be better for the rest of their employees. And so trying to raise the tide of humanity one company at a time.
Yeah, love it. And so I'm very familiar with Bloom Growth, because that's what we ran. I know that it is very similar to EOS. You mentioned EOS. Tell me the differences there. Like what makes Bloom Growth extra sexy to you?
Extra sexy. One, I guess I just need to say, of the tens of thousands of small to medium businesses out there, need to have a system to just tried and true, proven tenets within a business. Most people just start a business, and it's true hard work, it's grit, and they are successful, mildly successful, very, very successful, depending on, but they're really not uncorking the best in themselves. So I'd say any business needs to have an operating system. So I'm not here to say one is better than the other. Just having one is step one. What I do believe, and so I have nothing bad to say about EOS, what I consider Bloom Growth Operating System is it's a 2.0. It's an evolution of, and the things that are additional that I think are, again, truly transformational in this day and age that we are today is the team health. We have Elevate content that is in every session that we have, as you know, and it's not the majority of the time, but it's a significant of time that we spend on how we can show up as humans for each other and better. And then it translates into business productivity. And we also do all the tenets of the business side of things. So, that coupled with a focus on technology is, just a couple of the differences. Other than that, most of them they're not really differentiated. There are things in business that are tried and true. And, let's not recook the sauce here. Let's do what, use the easy things that are tried and true. And then let's add in the extra components. And to me, the more we can unlock the greatness within each other and a genius within each other, that's the secret sauce, and that's the difference maker.
Yeah, it's very running through those Elevate sessions were very informative and instrumental. I'm pretty sure I remember thinking this is kind of weird the very first time we ran through an exercise, and but you tied it very well together, and it made sense. Like it came together that one, we're our personal lives affect our business in a very fundamental way. And so why are we neglecting that side of the leadership team? And so I remember one of the first exercises we did for our annual was bringing an object and showing, like, this matters to me. Why does this matter to me on a deeply human level? And we had the opportunity of sharing that with the rest of the rest of the leadership team, and we got to know what makes the other people tick well, and that informs how we work with one another on a day-to-day and on a deep level. So it was really good.
Yeah, and really most of the things that we're trying to do is increase the trust within the team, right? Increasing trust, meaning getting people to be open and honest with where they are in whatever process it might be, open and honest about the work that's being done. And, oh, by the way, how about we make sure that people are doing the things that they're good at, they can be efficient at, and not just cook someone because it needs to be done. Right. Most people, and I'm saying that a huge majority, probably in the 90-something percentile of people, go to work as lemmings and do the job because it pays well, or because, again, they get caught into a rhythm or in an industry that, again, is paying the bills, because we're working for our families. We're not working as an identity. Most people confuse that. But then when we tie the security of our family to what we're doing every day, we're like, oh shit, I got to keep doing all the right things so I stay employed. Well, that isn't. And then what happens? People get burned out. People, tend up doing a job because they think they're predestined to do it, or the company needs it, so they step into it. And many times it's like, well, you do this for now, and then we'll move you. Well, that 3 years later, they're still doing that.
Yeah.
It's about being open and honest with that. Not saying that people don't have to do work that they don't want to do, but let's be honest about what is grinding and what is not really serving them, because there could be someone else in the organization that could do it in a third of the time and would actually really enjoy it. And so and most people are concerned about losing their job. So why would they? Can you imagine telling your boss, I don't like doing this, right? Yeah. In the past, if you're afraid of retribution or something like that, well, if you have a high level of trust and they know where you're coming from, and they actually probably know that about you, right? Because we go through these exercises, because we talk through this, they know you in and out. And so many times people are like, yeah, we know that. That's absolutely, when we discuss something, yeah, that's canon to a T. That's great. You knew that, but what are you doing about it? Right? We just know that, but are we actually doing something intentionally about leaning into the greatness that is Canon Spears? Right? That's where the unlock starts to happen.
Yeah, I like it, and I can testify to that. I would love in just a little bit to, I don't know, get into like maybe 3 to 5 questions you would encourage um, business leaders to take to their leadership teams to kind of like just to get the juices flowing on this. And it could be like I just want maybe we run through quite a few different Elevate sessions, and so just maybe just a hand-picked cherry few of those I would love to get into in a little bit. But I know that one of the big things that you helped our team out with was clarifying not just how to run better meetings. That's very, very important, but the context of the meeting itself is incredibly important to know. What is the context of this meeting, and do our roles and our ever-changing hats, do they are they aligned with what the context of this meeting particularly is? So like 30,000 foot view, 20,000, 10, 5,000 foot view. Could you, I'd love to get a crash course in that again.
Yeah. I massive credit to Patrick Lencioni, 6 Types Working Genius. Again, it's just the verbiage that he's using. It's not necessarily maybe groundbreaking or new, but using the word of elevation. What elevation are we at in this meeting, right? What is the purpose of this meeting? Are we in a brainstorm session here? Are we just coming up with ideas? Or is this a daily huddle about what work needs to be done today and what obstacles need to be removed from you? Those are 2 far different meetings. And in small companies, people tend to think they need to have everybody in a meeting. All right. I do have a client who started with a daily huddle every day. They're global. And again, it's 15 minutes and they think, well, it's not a big deal. They have everybody on here. It's a culture adding aspect because they wanted to get trust that way. Well, what turns into is people just reporting out and saying how they feel. I mean, which is good, but then we're tying up people's time that aren't tied to that. We're not helping them be more productive. You can do the same thing that you're doing by having it in a weekly meeting that has very specific agenda, right? All those things. But there are certain people in the organization that don't need to be in that meeting, right? They'll be a disruptor in that meeting because they're going to bring up an idea. In that day-to-day tactical meeting, they're going to say, hey, you know what? Should we be trying this and doing this better? And I'll just, again, this process, is this really working? That would send an everyday worker into a tailspin. Wait a minute. I'm supposed to be doing my job here. And now you're asking me. And by the way, I don't love thinking of new things. My job, and I enjoy doing the tasks that you ask me to do. Leave me alone. That's great. I'll just go put my nose down and do that. Disruptive. On the other side, if there really is an issue in the company and, there are people that love talking about high level ideas and they brainstorm ideas, throw them out on the wall. They're good, bad, the ugly. The people that are really, really good at doing that and they love doing it. But someone who is tactical and wants to make sure, like they're constantly thinking, well, that idea is terrible because I got to go do all these 45 things. It is just a turbulent environment, just like the elevation. When you're at 30,000 feet, you need to stay at 30,000 feet. And ultimately that elevation that we talk about is right there, different conversations. As work is done, you go from 30,000 feet to 25,000 feet to 20 to 15 to 10. The whole point of an airplane is to ultimately go up in the air to get to your destination faster than driving through the road. And then you're supposed to land the plane safely. That's a successful plane trip. But when you have someone, let's say we're in this 30,000 foot view and someone's asking you how to sign the signature on this form, whatever it might be, that's called turbulence. It's taking you right down to the ground, right? How am I supposed to get this finished? That is so much turbulence in a meeting that kind of a landing is called a crash landing. And that's not conversely, right? What you talk about mostly, right? In our weekly meetings, those are the meetings that are tactical because we've already agreed upon what our priorities are. Again, in the well-functioning company, we've agreed on what our targets are for the quarter.
Right.
We're not here to dream up something new and fresh. We're here to get the job done this week. When someone comes in with new, fresh ideas, we're going from 10,000 feet straight up into 30,000 feet. You know what that'll end up being? It's called a nosedive because they're going to stall the engine and come right back down. So, that is understanding what this meeting is all about, who should be in this meeting, not everybody, right? If it's brainstorm, have the right people that are supposed to be there that enjoy that and are going to bring clarity to it. Conversely, don't bring someone in that's going to come dream inside of a meeting when we're trying to get the widget completed here.
Yeah.
So, so what's the clarity? Who's supposed to be there? What are we doing here? And then if someone does come in with turbulent air, we say, hold on, this meeting is set for this. If we need to schedule another meeting, let's do that.
Okay.
Because how many meetings that are supposed to be 15 minutes turn into 45 or an hour and 15 because it's just, we're jumping all over the place.
So you would then recommend like, hey, don't have multiple contexts within a single meeting unless that is absolutely necessary and it's clearly defined.
Mm-hmm.
But you would say it's better just to have a separate context meeting. Is like, hey, if we're going to get into brainstorm mode, we need to have a brainstorm. This is not the time or the place for that.
Absolutely.
But to your point, we have already set expectations ahead of time, whether at the beginning of every quarter, for those new objectives and new initiatives that we're going to be pursuing. Mm-hmm. Now we're just like every weekly meeting then should be supplementing that to make sure, like, are we on track? Are we off track?
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's how we move that ball down the field, is one step at a time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, again, that portion was very helpful for me to learn the different contexts and be able to put words to things and be like, hey, like, we know what I lean towards. We know what you lean towards. Let's just set expectations for what this meeting looks like and what's helpful. Like, because we're all chasing the same objective. Like, so let's have some grace and let's just provide some clarity for what those meetings look like.
And actually, that's what you just said. I would like to think everyone is trying to do the same thing. We all have the same objective, right? If you have the great team and everything else, everyone is fighting towards the same thing. But most times it's not even clear what the heck you're going for, right? So you might think we're all on the same page on what we want, but are we? Have we agreed upon it? Have we seen where we're headed, right? Because until you say, here's what I think we're headed, and unless someone agrees with that, you're not on the same page in most cases, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, getting back to what the previous question was, I wanted to give you a little bit of time to think about that. In order to have a more cohesive and maybe holistic approach to the leadership team dynamic, what would be some of those few questions that a listener could pose, just to, again, get kind of the juices flowing about, like, this is how we create a more cohesive
that there's 1,000 different ways to go about that, right? There are different versions of just doing a 3-question thing, just to have people answer 3 questions about themselves. It could be, what was your favorite job? There's some very high surface level things that are way better than what people do today, because they don't even ask. They're like, hey, we're going out for a beer, and that's fine, but it's all surface level, right? So there's some really, really interesting things that you can ask that are just like, what's the most embarrassing moment you've ever had? What's your proudest moment? Those are those can go different ways, and people answer them in different ways. And but really, and again, that's very, very surface level. That's not even as deep as we go, as you know. Uh-huh. But I think those at minimum are what get people started, because they're not accustomed to answering questions truthfully, or like, is it really the most embarrassing, or this is the one I'm willing to tell you, right? Yeah. Because there are some that are down there and bad, and people are embarrassed, and there's some shame. Like, what we're trying to uncover is removing the shame, the fear, the doubt that each and every one of us come to the table with, because that's what blocks us from true trust with each other. Because we're not letting everyone know who we are. We're letting everyone see the strong person, the strong side of us, mm-hmm. right? And because many of those stories really shape how we operate and what we think about. Like, certainly the exercise that we go through is the first one that we do, is the bringing the pride, something of pride for you. Uh-huh. What happens is you get to see what really is important to that person and why. And then you start looking at, wait, how is that connected to all the rest of us? We just answered in a certain way. And how do we show each other that we see what we hear what you said, that tells us a lot about you, or we already saw that in you. And then how are we actually alike? Right? Because that's understanding how we're different, but also how we're alike. So we have a whole different understanding, a whole different appreciation, a whole different respect for people. Because again, if we're just showing up 9 to 5 and people see who we are 9 to 5 and don't see who we are every other moment that we live, not every moment, but at least again, who we show up as somewhere else, then it's a surface level. You're never going to get the bare minimum out of somebody in that scenario in a broad spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a more recent example, I know that help me out here. We went through a deep dive in what is my personal why, and you had several different methods to kind of dig into that, which is good because just asking what gets you up in the morning, like that might only prompt certain parts of your brain, but you had facilitated good questions that kind of got deeper and deeper and deeper for the purpose of, are we in alignment with the mission, vision, values of the organization?
Yeah, I think,
and I've said this before, but if like that's that could be a hard conversation, but if you're not, then let's just, again, for the sake of being open and creating a truly trusting environment among the leadership team, like these are conversations that need to be had.
Well, I think, and what we were talking about is really your why or your passions, and really how do they tie into the business?
Yeah.
Because again, some very few businesses, they have their why or their passion or purpose of why they exist as a company. Some of them, they wear it on their sleeves, right? Like the Tom's shoes, or again, they're the ones that are famous for their giving nature or what they're doing. Most people, it's hidden, it's not known, it's not talked about. It's then assumed that their passion or why as the business owner is to make money.
Yeah.
And most people, maybe that is actually what it is. But again, I'm not going to say that's wrong, but are you really going to get everyone to stay an extra 30 minutes late without asking for any more money? Are you going to get people to do more work to jump right in when there's a big issue? Or are you going to get people to run and hide? Are you going to get people that call in sick when they have a sniffle? Or are you going to have them, hey, I'm going to work as much as I can without hurting myself, right? What are you going to get out of someone? So the first step is there a why in the organization that is known by everyone? And again, sometimes it's fluffy and people don't recognize it, but many times it's like, you know what, that's my rallying cry. I can get behind that. I sell a stapler, but you know what we're actually doing? We're helping have better meetings so that people can be on the same page. Well, that's just threw in my head here. But are we tying to something different as an organization? That's where most operating systems stop, right? Because that's a huge piece, is what's everyone showing up to work as? And then you get it so people know it so they can recite it. The step that's missing in most places is, are we actually talking about the human? Do we know what their passions are? So we get to know someone, number one. Do we get to understand it? Again, hopefully they have a right place here. So are we tying their passion? Can you see how it connects to the organization? So they wake up totally different. No, my passion is this. I don't have to say that the job, this company is my identity. My identity, though, is my passion, my core why, but I can also see how it ties in the company. That's where it really comes true. That's from the business standpoint. That's the, not to make it too clunky or business-like, but that's like from the organizational standpoint where you get productivity. But for me, the warming side is, we get people, I don't even know the percentage of people that actually know their passion, right? Actually say it, actually go through an exercise like this, and they just go through life happening to them. Versus if you're living in your core passion in life, it might not be in this company, and the organization has to be okay with that. Maybe you can go actually have a fulfilling life, even though you're an employee doing a job that might not make all the money. But you know what? If you're passionate, if you get up every day and you're like, man, I'm thinking like a Peace Corps people, right? You don't have to go that route, but maybe there's a better place for you. And you know what? The company's going to be better for it because they're not getting the best out of you. So let's celebrate why we get up in the morning. Let's celebrate humanity a little bit. because it can help line our pockets with profit. That's the back end of it. But the right side is, man, we're making this world a better place by giving people, that's where, again, to tie it back to my own personal why of helping and raising the tide of the world is I get to do this in an organization that hopefully it can spread out. I can't touch everybody in the world, and I don't anticipate and try to, but if I can get one or two people to see that and spread it throughout others, like that's the sauce.
Huge impact. Yeah. A question came to mind. So in this effort where people might not have I would say the majority of people have not gone through an exercise and a deep dive into discovering their why and their passions. And maybe they're cognizant on a one level, but then as they kind of go through, they get more and more in depth. How does that look for organizations that you might facilitate? With maybe there is kind of a surface level why, or like this is our mission, and maybe at the time it was not super well thought out, again because the more and more meetings you're going through, the more and more like quarterlies and annuals that you're facilitating, like you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper. What does that look like? What would that look like if a organization needed to tweak or change or just be more honest about their why?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of times it is an evolution because aspirations change, maturity changes. A lot of times people start with mechanical answers and whys, right? Tied to specifically, we make tires so people can drive. And there's nothing wrong with that, or whatever it might be. But they evolve because they're through time, because we do, and we haven't even finished the whole evolution of the Elevate content we do, right? It's a 2 or 3 year process, depending on how we go. People are tapping in deeper and deeper and deeper into themselves through this process. So the why actually evolves more. Because, again, when people aren't accustomed to doing this, and mine has evolved immensely over the past 5 years, which is, again, why I'm doing what I'm doing. It was never wrong, my own purpose, passion, but it's evolved because now I'm really tapping into, and I'm uncovering, I've had this feeling, I've had these things that I worked through. Now I'm really, really understanding myself. The more I have people sharing with me because my trust has gone up, so that I'm sharing more with my peers and the peers are sharing more with me. And it's really, really uncovering. And people are, and as you evolve, then it's not in the beginning, it feels like a lot of times the owner or the founder is the one that comes up with the why, because they're so deeply tied to it. But then as it goes through and the leadership team really becomes more of the ownership of, not in company ownership, but in owning of their roles and owning of where they fit in the organization. Amazingly enough, their ideas start coming through more. The owner starts letting go more. And then it's a collaborative why. That's really the evolution, is it becomes more of a collaborative why versus, because I had my own experience from my own company, Great Lakes Essential Power. Right? I came up with one because I was working on myself when we were going through this. So our why has evolved numerous times, because I forced the why on the company, and then it just felt clunky. No one else could really tie and connect to it. Yeah. And then the more the leadership team realized, like, hey, you know what, that was me, and it should, a lot of it is because the identity was me at one point, and now really it's not. The identity is not me anymore. I don't identify myself with it as much anymore. So now it's evolved to what really resonates with the company and gets them up every morning. So that's a really part of the evolution that you're talking about. I'd say is it's very rare that one doesn't change.
Yeah, because I'm thinking within like weekly meetings, like you don't want to change quarterly objectives once a week. You've set them. And so I wondered if that translates to if quarterly and annual objectives are an outflowing of our company's mission, vision, and values, well, it seems like you wouldn't want to constantly change the foundational work unless you have to, unless, like you said, you are uncovering things and you are getting closer and closer to the truth about this is what is the heartbeat of our organization.
Yeah, you nailed it, right? There are times when it is the biggest aha explosion in the world, and the whole organization is like, we just got it. I don't want to lose that momentum. Like if it's a June 22nd, okay, then let's do that. But we got to have the discipline. We're not doing that every 3 months. We're not doing that. Like it's got to be earth shattering. Otherwise I say, no, there's a time and a place for us to really, really focus on this. And it's in our annual, right? Our 2-day where we get more immersive. That's when we want to revisit this. We want to talk about it all the time, right? Whether it's in the state of the company or showing everyone so the team knows what the plan is. So we want to keep saying it. We want people to know it because they need to know it and hear it. You hear it 7 times before they know it. But we don't want to discuss it every time. It's like it's a debate, right? Yeah. So a little bit of a balance, but that one is definitely I wouldn't suggest changing it every year either, right? Because then it just becomes that same, then we're back into the trap where we were before we started doing this process, which is changing the direction of the company on the whim of the owner, right? Yep. So you got to have some stability in there.
So how can we've talked quite a bit. We've talked about elevating the team on a more human level. We talked about the working genius and having good understanding of what's the context of this particular meeting, and we have structure to our meetings so that we're accomplishing what we've already said that we were setting out to accomplish. And also now talking about like personal why, and also organizational why. How would what would be the next best action steps for leadership teams, for leadership teams that need that team cohesion, that need better context, better understanding, better communication? I'm realizing this is a big question.
Yeah.
And even bigger and even deeper is like, where are we at with our organizational why? Is this more surface level? Is this even true to a point? Like, other than call up John Glon to start facilitating and implementing,
that would be step one. Step one. Tell me. No, that's such and I appreciate the vagueness of that question, because each team is different, right? If you're already having meetings that have the same cadence, have the same agenda, then you are light years ahead of most companies, right? Because it's all about how are we executing, how are we communicating with each other? And the only way to do that is to communicate, right, in a meeting, have the objectives already clearly stated that are timely, right? Whether it be quarterly, you could have monthly, annual, whatever. And are we staying on track? Like that, if you're already having a weekly meeting, it's now make sure the agenda matches what you're trying to accomplish. Because again, even though people will maybe try to implement because they read books, right? A lot of owners, like they read books and they get the flavor of the month and what they want to do. Yeah. You can meet every week, but if you're meeting with no agenda and it's all like the elevation we were talking about, and you're at 30,000 feet and you're at 5 feet and all these things, you're failing. Just having a meeting is not the answer. Yeah. So really, really step one. And it is, as you know, it's the first, actually you weren't there for the first day, but the first day that we get, with what I have with the client is how to run a weekly meeting. Like it's amazing how elementary it is, but it's amazing how companies and people make it complex and have just no direction in a meeting. Like I know you had an episode a little while ago that it was like all over that. Like that, again, step one, not just having a meeting, but having the right agenda is generally, again, step one. And, I would say sometimes it's having a why is supremely important, But if it's one person making it up, if you don't have a choreographed methodology to get there, you're not going to be there.
Yeah.
And you're not going to follow it, right? There's, as you had made mention, right? The way that we get to astronomical growth is by making sure that if we are all living in our why and our passion, if we have all the right people that are living by our core values, if we're all on the same page with what we agreed upon for our priorities and we're all executing, that's how it all works. If you have some of those missing, there's turbulence everywhere. So there isn't a magic pill. There's plenty of poison pills, but there isn't a magic pill to like automatically you're going to be more productive, right? Because sometimes that gets a little overheady for some people to try to capture all those things without some facilitation. And that's not to say, and that's not just saying me, I can do that. It's really, really hard to come up with core values and the why without someone walking through and calling BS on some things or like, that sort of thing. So again, you're trying to get like, hey, my clients, how could people listening to this just tactically move forward, is having a meeting with an agenda that is not dreaming, that is about tackling our obstacles and opportunities and our issues, whatever you want to call them, and driving towards the objectives that we already agreed upon.
Yeah. Love it. And I appreciate that. I love hitting some hard tactics about what we can do to move forward from here. So appreciate that. Speaking of getting in touch with you, what would be the best method for listeners?
Best method. I'm on LinkedIn. JOHN GLON. Yes, it rhymes. I am. My email is john.g@bloomgrowthcoach.com. Facebook. I'm on Instagram. My cell number 248-534-8503. So reach out. Connect.
Trust.
Happy to help.
Good stuff. John, this is a pleasure. It's always fun getting to chat with you and cut up. So appreciate that.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having me on.
Good, absolutely. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time.